We've been seeing more and more as board gaming enthusiasts, this idea of premium board games, upscaling your board games, almost like where there's two editions of the board game, right? The regular version, which has the components, but then the upgraded version, which might have some pre-painted miniatures like the D&D Adventure systems, or it could include miniatures where the others were cardboard tokens like Witcher, or perhaps a couple of extra components to push that game to a more premium edge. And then there are some games, Core Box Nemesis. The production value is insane. Hard card stock, great board, awesome miniatures. All the components are acrylic / plastic / plastic cubes / glass beads. That's a premium game that came in the core box. And then, of course, board gaming enthusiasts, as you play over time, you have titles that you really, really enjoy, and they become a little bit more premium. Maybe I replace the regular coins with generic gold coins, pulling them in from a role-playing game system. Maybe I'm going to print out or kind of make a 3D dashboard to manage the cards. Maybe I'm going to put in some furniture. Games that you really enjoy to upgrade. So within that framework, do you have to paint your miniatures? Should you paint your miniatures? And what about upgrading other components? I'm going to share with you Zombicide Black Plague. It is one of my favorite games because it starts out, and I've pushed up to the board gaming playlist here some Zombicide Tactica. It starts out where you're like, okay, I'm beating on some zombies, I'm getting some gear, I'm moving around, confidence level is high. But then as you, the Zombicide mechanic, as you kill zombies, you level up. And in the process of leveling up, you unlock skills. That's awesome. But now there's a threat level where more and more zombies spawn. So the game goes very quick to where there's not much happening. You're feeling confident to now all of a sudden, real time, 50, 60, 70 miniatures on the table. And not only can't you kill them fast enough, you can't really run away. It's pretty stressful in a good way. So it's a game, it's a narrative that I really, really enjoy and you can pick up. Supporting, I say that because over time I've wanted to upgrade the system, and I have upgraded the system because I think it's certain board games have a good base that in terms of miniatures or components or feel or narrative where you're like, if I can upgrade these components, then it really takes it to that next level. So the first thing that I did was I painted the miniatures. I actually painted 2 sets of core Zombicide Black Plague. I will never be doing this again. I'm announcing that officially. I will never be doing this again because it started out, I'm an okay miniature painter. I've got some skills. I'm okay. I'm solid. I say that just to kind of benchmark it. I don't mind painting my miniatures. I know there's hobby enthusiasts that's the focus of their game. I'm more tactics. I like to more play, but I understand the power of paint. I understand visually and wargaming systems, and there is an amount of enjoyment or some interest in creating that experience by painting. So I say that because, okay, I can understand if you've never painted stuff before, or if you're at the beginning, it can be a little bit intimidating. So I go into Zombicide Black Plague, and I want to paint these miniatures up. Tabletop standard, which means the presentation looks good. It's solid. Tabletop also means when it gets dropped on the floor and stepped on, we had a dog eat a few miniatures, that type of stuff. I'm not going to go into like a panic because it's like a golden demon miniature. But also at the same time, to paint all of them to that scale, while I have seen some sets that do that, Zombicide in Black Plague and Invader 2, those are games that we're playing almost weekly. So the wear and tear is going to be intense. So I say that because going in, if you're going to paint your miniatures, we want them to showcase the best that you can do, but even with your ability, there's different levels of paint. So tabletop for me was primary colors, a light wash, a little bit of highlighting, a little bit of dry brushing, and then just some kind of low-level effects on the basing, some texture, some terrain, some splash effects. There's a lot of zombies. Now, all the poses are the same, so I painted them in batches where groups of 5 zombies were all painted the same. So even though it's the same pose, there's a little bit of variation within that pose. I set up my assembly line. I've got my paints out. I've got YouTube on listening to you guys. And it was insane. It took a while. It really, painting up my Dungeon Saga stuff took a while, but this was intense to go through. And the detail is solid on the miniatures, but it's not like some of the crazy Games Workshop miniatures that have tons of skulls and scrolls and armored bolts and features. I mean, they're good for speed painting. Here we go. So I made it through that set. Later on, a friend really wanted a painted set, so we kind of worked on that, and I painted that up for him, and I'm like, I can never do this again. But the difference between painted and unpainted, just watching it pop, was absolutely fantastic. It really was very interesting. And this is just with a few colors, wash, some highlights, some dry brushing, absolute tabletop, taking it to that level. The next thing that I did was I wanted to dress things up with some furniture. Sidebarring for a moment, when I play Battletech, which is a war game, when I play Battletech, the mechs, they're kind of like giant robots on the table. As we fire lasers and shoot missiles, I have a bunch of little sculpted terrain that will be like an explosion in the ground or some painted cotton for fire. And what we like to do as we play Battletech, when I shoot at your mech and I cause damage, or if I miss, in that area, depending on the weapon, we'll put down, if it's missiles and they explode and burn, I'll put down some smoke effects. We'll put down some ground that's torn up or kind of rubble from it being smashed. It's pure visual. It has absolutely no value in gameplay. It doesn't block line of sight, doesn't give you cover bonuses. It does nothing. But the reason why we put it down as we go is it's interesting to watch as the game unfolds, as we move and where we move and how we move, how the battlefield changes. We'll place some trees with burnt trees. We'll put some buildings that get destroyed with rubble. Again, doesn't impact the rules, but visually it changes. And then at the end of the game, we can kind of step back and be like, wow, look at all the absolute crazy damage that we've done. So I wanted to capture that feeling with upgrading Zombicide Black Plague. And what I did was get a whole bag of a kind of a mixed grab bag of dungeon furniture. Some of it was Dungeon Saga extra that I had. Some of it, I think, was some broken down Dwarven Forge stuff. Some other stuff was 3D printed. Once you print it all up, bookshelves, tables, barrels, crates, rubble pile. When you would explore a room in Zombicide Invader, you might spawn zombies, you might search. When a player goes into the room, what we do is just little window dressing. We just put down some furniture in the game, right, to represent what's inside the room. It has no bearing in the game, doesn't influence spawns. It's just pure window dressing, but it's really cool as you move through the map and as you explore to have these elements, to have these parts open up and see how the game unfolds. So just by doing those two things, and admittedly painting all those miniatures was a little bit more intense than the furniture piece, but just by having those two things, it really, really makes the game pop. It really makes the game stand out. And it hasn't altered the rules. It hasn't changed anything. I didn't have to now kind of make house rules to deal with these upgrades. These little things, or these pieces, these primary points with your board game, that if you can incorporate, if you can upgrade, if you can change, it radically enhances the play of the game. So turning it over to my fellow mailbag board gaming enthusiasts, what are some titles, just out of curiosity, what are some titles in your collection that you've seen where you're like, Fritz, this is the core game. This is it. You know, the buy-in is $80, $90, and the components are insanely amazing, insanely over the top. I mean, another system, this might be a $150 premium type game, and this is the core. That's the first curiosity, some of those titles. And the second curiosity is board games in your collection that you regularly play, that you enjoy, kind of those tier one titles. How have you upgraded the components? And what kind of components do you think make the best, quickest, and most impact in terms of upgrades.